Hey, thanks for joining for day one of Do We Need Men? When a woman says, I don't need a man, my first question is, what exactly do you mean by need? Because that word in that statement is doing a whole lot of work. Do you mean you can support yourself financially? Today, many women do. Do you mean you can own a home, build a career, raise children, make decisions, lead an organization, travel alone, or create a meaningful life without a man? You absolutely can. Women do those things all the time. I do many myself. And I am deeply grateful to live in a time and place where women have agency, opportunity, education, and choices that many women before us did not have. But I think we need to be careful here because questioning a woman's capability and questioning a man's value are not the same thing. We do not need to diminish what women are capable of in order to challenge the conclusion that men are therefore unnecessary. The fact that women can be successful without men does not mean that men have nothing meaningful to contribute. And the fact that today's women may not require men for financial survival does not make men unnecessary. So think about where this logic is going. If a woman can raise a child alone, does that mean fathers are unnecessary? If a woman can protect herself, does that mean male strength has no value? If a woman can provide for herself, does that mean there is nothing meaningful to receive from a good man? Of course not. And this is where I think our culture has sometimes confused female independence with male insignificance. We have taken the beautiful truth that a woman can be strong, capable, educated, accomplished, and whole, and somehow allowed it to become an argument against a man's inherent value. But the comparison itself falls short. For those of us who look to Scripture, the biblical story gives us a very different picture. Genesis 1:27 tells us that God created us in His image, male and female, both bearing His image, both possessing dignity, both carrying value. So no, I do not accept the idea that a woman needs a man in order to have worth. Her worth comes from God. Nor do I accept the idea that a man's worth depends on whether a woman says she needs him. His worth comes also from God. The idea that because a woman can survive without a man, his value and strength may be something unimportant and somehow negated was born from something other than truth. And if the goal is simply to survive, then that is indeed a very low standard for human flourishing. Maybe that's where this conversation needs to begin. Not with can women do life without men or whether they need them. We already know that women are capable. But those of us who want to get to the truth need to look at the harder question. What do women lose when we decide there's nothing meaningful to receive from a man? What happens when male strength is automatically viewed as threatening, male leadership as oppressive, male protection as unnecessary, the male perspective as irrelevant, and men themselves become optional? And here is something else we must be willing to consider. Will women cease to bear sons? And if a woman has a son and she thinks she doesn't need a man today, what does she hope his future will include? Will she want respect for him? Would she want him to be honored? Would she want his life to be meaningful and rewarding? Can a woman who says she doesn't need a man honestly hope that one day her son is seen as a man whose presence matters, whose worth brings something valuable to the lives of others? These are questions we must be willing to consider because ideas do not stay in social media captions. They do not disappear in a vacuum when we walk away from street interviews. They shape how we date, how we marry, how we raise our sons, how we raise our daughters, how we build families, and how we treat one another. And if some modern ideas we are wrestling with today about men and women are going to continue to establish truth for us, then we honestly need to take a deep breath and take a look at what we are selling the next generation. But today, I want to begin with you. When you hear the question, do women need men? What is your immediate reaction? And before you answer, ask yourself, what experiences, wounds, insults, relationships, or cultural messages have shaped that response? Because before we settle on our conclusions, it may be worth asking how we arrived at them. We want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So let's ask ourselves what really matters. I'll see you tomorrow.